Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava. Swami Vindiki, Prabhupada Ki, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Jai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol. Gentlemen, Vaishnava Congress. What we do from Letter of Devotion. Relish the nectar of devotion. I said that devotional service is tastes like poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end. And nectar in the beginning, but poison. So this is a chapter entitled in the service of the Vaishnavas or devotees. In that scripture, Lord Shiva tells Parvati, my dear Parvati, there are different methods of worship, and out of all of such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of the Lord's devotees. So this verse is Radhananam Sarvishu. Can't remember the whole verse, but Tadiya is the word mentioned. And Tadiya means that which is related to Vishnu is even more dear to Vishnu than worshipping him. Similar statement in the third canto, 7th chapter, verse 19, Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me become a sincere servant of the devotees, because by serving them, one can achieve unalloyed devotion and service unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The service of devotees diminishes all miserable material conditions and develops within one a deep devotional love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. From Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Canto 7, Chapter 10, titled Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees, text 51. Sa Esha Bhagavan Rajan, Sa Esha Bhagavan Rajan, Tam Yasha Yatanod Vihatam Yasha Pura Rudrasya Pura Rudrasya Devasya Mayina Nanta Mayina Nanta Mayina Rajan Vyatanod Vihatam Yasha Pura Rudrasya Devasya Mayina Yatanod Vihatam Yasha Pura Rudrasya Devasya Mayina Nantamayina. Kesha Bhagavan Rajan. Kesha Bhagavan. The same person of the Lord Krishna, who is Pada Brahman. Rajan, dear king. Lost reputation. Pura, formerly in Gracia. Ananta, unlimited. Mayana, possessing technical knowledge. Translation. My dear King Yudhishthira, long, long ago in history, a demon known as Maya Danava, who was very expert in technical knowledge, reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saved Lord Shiva. Please repeat. My dear King Yudhishthira, long, long ago in history, a demon known as Maya Danava, who was very expert in technical knowledge, reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saved Lord Shiva. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Lord Shiva is known as Mahadev, the most exalted demigod. Thus, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that although Lord Brahma did not know the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva could have known them. This historical incident proves that Lord Shiva derives power from Lord Krishna, the Parabrahman. Om Agana Tamarandasya Gananjana Slakaya Chakrimalatamina Tasma Shigurve Namaha Kam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Laga Tegirim Yat Maham Vande Shigirim Dinatarnam Mam Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Budlay Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear King Yudhishthira, long, long ago in history, a demon known as Mayadanava, who was very expert in technical knowledge, reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, saved Lord Shiva. Know anything about Mayadanava? Anyone of you read anything about Mayadanava? So, Mayadanava is known as the architect of the demons. So just like we have the architect of the demigods, who is known as Vishvakarma. Vishva something. Vishvakarma. And it's considered that the person who carved Jagannath because originally Jagannath was living in the forest before they built Jagannath Puri Temple, and he was known as Nilakanta. Nilakanta means, actually, no, sorry, it wasn't Nilakanta. It does mean blue throat. It was that refers to Lord Shiva. Nilamada. So this deity of Nilamada was worshipped by pig farmer in Sabara, which is unusual because generally in the caste system, the lower castes wouldn't be doing deity worship, it would be the Brahmins. But the Maharaja Indrajumna had a dream. He was a great devotee. He had and come and take him and build him a new temple. So, long story short, eventually that deity disappeared. But again, the Lord appeared to Indrajumna on the shore. Go there and take that and carve the deities of him and his brother and sister. One brand and then after a few days or whatever period of time it was, then he heard the stop, and then he's thinking, so why has he stopped? He hasn't done anything for quite some time, so he was quite anxious to go in and find out what was going on, but he knew that if he went in, then the terms were that this Murtiwala, or maker of deities, would stop. So when he went in and he seen the deities in the form of Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, then he thought, oh no, I've blown it. I went in and they're not finished. But then it was revealed to him that these are actually special forms of the Lord displaying ecstasy. This is ecstatic symptoms as the eyes going very wide. So we see Jagannath's got very wide eyes. And this is actually just in reference also to what we read about in the Nectar of Devotion, that the Lord is actually more pleased when we serve the devotees than we serve him. So when he was hearing, this came about, this form of the Lord with the eyes very wide and the limbs going into the body. It came around because the Lord was listening to some devotees describe the loving pastimes between him and his devotees, and he was very much ecstatic by hearing about the activities of the devotional offerings. That he became stunned, and his eyes became wide, and his limbs went into his body. And Lord Balaram comes down the road and sees him. He's like, oh, what's happening to Krishna? And then he hears also, and he has the same, and then Subhadra has the same. So this is why those deities are there. But anyway, Vishvakarma is the architect of the demigods, and it was considered that he was the one who came and carved those deities. On the other hand, we have Mayadanava, who's the architect of the demons. So he's known for building great palaces and cities for the demons. He's also known for his technical knowledge, as it mentions here, I think. It does. So there was one time that he was caught up in a forest fire, which was somehow or another because Mayadanava and the demigods were attacking the demons. The demigods. The thing with the demigods and the demons is that there's always some enmity there. So the demons, particularly, they don't accept Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. This is always going on in the material world. Someone's always wanting to take your position. As soon as you get a position, what happens? Somebody wants it. As soon as you've got some wealth, people always find out and they want to take it. Or some cheating somewhere or another. As soon as you've got a position, somebody wants to take it. Because the natural position of the living entity in the material world is competing with Krishna. That means anyone who's got anything they want to compete with them. You see this Guinness Book of Records from it. It's full of people trying to be the best at something. And even if that something is something completely obscure and useless, like I'm the person who's eating the most light bulbs. Yeah, there's somebody in there. I'm a person who's eating a cow. Who swallowed enough razor blades. There's someone who almost amount of eggs within a minute. Dignity than running around doing such stupid things. So they're always envious of the Lord. There's a natural position of the demons. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, explains in the 16th chapter, and he explains to Arjuna divine nature. Because sometimes a devotee, they hear about these demoniac qualities and they think, oh, that's me. I'm so envious, always speaking harshly like that. But the demons, they don't think like that. They just do it. They don't. That's the difference. They don't have the conscience. They'll just be like that. But one who's a devotee, they think, oh, I'm not such a good character. I've got such room for improvement. But so there's many instances in the Shastra where we hear about demons attacking, etc. And the wife of Ravan was a daughter of Mayadanava. That was, but also he's mentioned in the Mahabharata as well as Ramayana, where he was saved by Arjuna because Agnidev had created a forest of fire, and Mayadanava. But somehow or another, Arjuna saved Mayadanava, and he offered him a benediction. Mayadanava offered Arjuna a benediction called Yantra Siddhi. Does anyone know what Yantra Siddhi is? So does anyone know what Siddhi means? Perfection. So there's different types of siddhis, such as Lagima Siddhi, one can become lighter than a feather. Mahima Siddhi, one can be bigger than a planet or heavier than a planet. Prapti Siddhi, where you can manifest something out of apparently thin air. What they do is, and sometimes you see, even to this present day, you see some yogis who can do these things. And it's not very astonishing because it's a material ability which one can get. If you perform certain austerities, you can get it. But what's the real value of it? It doesn't stop you from repeated birth and death. Often what they do is they'll learn these things, some tricks, so they can mesmerize the ignorant public, and then they become a big Swami or a big Guru or a big avatar. It was which is quite interesting. So yeah, what they do is, because of their mental power, they can take something from another place, which is on the gross material platform. They'll transfer it onto the subtle material platform, bring it to them. Prapti means to obtain, like Krishna Prapti, to obtain Krishna. So, and then they'll manifest it, remanifest it again on the gross material platform. So they're able to manipulate material energy, but it's quite puny in comparison to the benedictions which a pure devotee can give, which is to give you liberation from this material world once and for all. I've seen there's one leaflet came through the door some years ago, many years ago, when we had the temple down at the bottom, and it was this person initially he was called such and such Baba, and then he became something else, and then eventually he became such and such avatar. And it was quite laughable because Prabhupada has given us so much knowledge that we're not fooled by these things, whereas other people who don't know anything, they have, as Prabhupada would put it, have a poor fund of knowledge. Then they would think, oh, he's become God. That's amazing. If I follow him, I can become God. But no, like Prabhupada says, God is always God. He doesn't become God. It's not like he's done his apprenticeship. Now he can become God. I'm an apprentice God. That's ridiculous. All individuals about 5 years out, and if you go downhill, you didn't have to nip off to the Himalayas to do 2,000 years meditation, tapasya to come and get that power. And there was a funny story about this. I don't know if it's true or not, or it's just used to explain the point, but two boys went to school together, and one of them, he remained in the village. He was a boatman, and he would take people across the Ganga in his boat, and this boat was handed down through generations, so that was just his security. There's always people wanting to cross the Ganges. And the other boy, he went to the Himalayas. 40 years later, he came back, and he said, oh, my dear friend, where have you been? I've been to the Himalayas. What are you doing? Performing great tapasya, great penances and austerities. What was that for? He said, well, I learned to walk on water. So he showed him. He said, oh, very good. He says, 40 years to learn to do that. For 40 paisa, I could have rowed you across. So, of course, you probably all know the story, but the point is that it's kind of a futile achievement. And they might think, oh, that'd be cool to walk. You wouldn't do it on your own, you want other people to see you doing it. And you wouldn't just do it and then do it in private. So people get these things in order to show off. They want to get some following. And ultimately, the subtle sex life, name, fame, adoration, and gain, which ultimately sends pleasure. So you see, every distraction in the world is up to sex life, which is an apunya agar, the shackles of sex life. But when we take to serving Krishna, then our senses become absorbed in Him, our senses become purified, and then we're no longer shackled by this, free from that. So there was Lord Shiva is mentioned in this verse here. I won't go into the story, but it says that due to his technical knowledge, he reduced the reputation of Lord Shiva. In that situation, then Krishna saved Lord Shiva. Now, sometimes people think that Lord Shiva is the chief god. Now, he is chief of amongst the demigods, but in the Brahma Samhita, it's also explained that there are different explains the position of Lord Shiva. So I'll just quote a couple of verses. We've got a few minutes. Vamangadashujad Vishnum Dakshinangat Prajapatim Jyotirlingamaya Shambhum Kurcha Deshad Avashrajit. So another name for Shiva is Shambhu. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between his two eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine manifested halo. So we see this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We see the description of the creation of the cosmic manifestation, and Rudra comes from the forehead of Mahavishnu. So this is indicating, because people don't know this, then they just go with whatever they hear, usually from kind of like family gurus or whatever. They have some poor fund of knowledge. And it's another nice verse. Goloka namni nija damni tale chatasya devi mahesha haridamashu teshu deshu Tite Prabhava Nichaya Vyataschayena Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So this is explaining the various levels of abodes. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, the material world. So Devi refers to Maya Devi. This material world is known as Devi Dham. Sometimes you see pictures of Maya Devi and she has various weapons, and those weapons are there to keep living entities in the material world. So they're symbolized by weapons, but it's not that necessarily she's physically like poking us with a trident and we can't get out. Basically, she has various things such as temptations to the senses and stuff. And if we commit offenses, then there's another, that's another type of binding to the material world. So next above, mundane world, is Maheshtam, the abode of Mahesh. Above Maheshtam is placed Haridam, abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord, Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. So this is also shown that the highest abode is Haridam, Vaikuntha, and Maheshdam, or Shiva Loka, and Devidam, or Martya Loka, world of birth and death. Then these are actually lower than Haridam. And another explanation of Lord Shiva's position is Kshiram Yata Dadi Vikara Vishesha Yogat Sanjayatin Nahi Tata Pritag Ashtihetu Yasambhutam Apitata Samupayatakaryad Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids. So anybody here ever made curd from milk before? Okay, so you have to put some citric acid or yogurt or tamarind. You do something which will turn it, so by the actions of acids. But yet the effect of curd is neither the same as nor different from its cause, namely milk. So whether we refer to Lord Shiva as curd or yogurt, here I think it's generally considered Lord Shiva is described as being compared to milk, yogurt. And so Shiva to Vishnu is what yogurt is to curd, to milk. It's the same. It's the same in essence. It's the yogurt has come from milk, but you can't turn yogurt back into milk again, and you can't make so many different things. It has limited potency, but milk has all the potency, including that which yogurt has, because it can become yogurt as well. It can become ghee, it can become cream, butter, etc. So this is showing that it's simultaneously one and different. So just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect of curd is neither the same as nor different from its cause, namely milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. So in the purport here, it says, the real nature of Shambhu, the presiding deity of Maheshtam, is described. Shambhu is not a second godhead other than Krishna. Those who entertain such discriminating sentiment commit a great offence against the Supreme Lord. The supremacy of Shambhu is subservient to that of Govinda, hence they are not really different from each other. The non-distinction is established by the fact that just as milk treated with acid turns into curd, so Godhead becomes a subservient when he himself attains a distinct personality by the addition of a particular element of adulteration. This personality has no independent initiative. The said adulterating principle is constituted of a combination of the stupefying quality of the deluding energy, the quality of non-plenitude of the marginal potency and a slight degree of the ecstatic cum cognitive principle of the plenary spiritual potency. So I hope you got all that. So this is non-plenitude. So a plenary expansion means complete expansion, right? So non-plenary would mean not complete. So not equal to Vishnu Tattva, Shiva Tattva. And he comes basically along with Mahadevi for the purpose of serving in the material world. There's descriptions in the Krishna book of some of Mahadanava's handiwork. Have you read the pastime of Shalva? So Shalva is one person who's been attacking Krishna, right? And if you remember, he's in a Vimana. Does anybody know what a Vimana is, or Viman? Spaceship, or some kind of flying craft. And Sadaputa wrote a book called Alien Identities, where he's comparing UFO sightings to ancient Vedic descriptions, such as this Mahadanava. He appears in some kind of aircraft, and then he suddenly disappears and reappears somewhere else. And this is described also as some people who have seen UFOs. They describe them as being in a stationary position, and then suddenly they're somewhere else, as if they've accelerated thousands of G-forces. But this is because they're using subtle energies. And it's also described in the Vaimanika Shastra. I had the good fortune of spending time with Sadaputa, and he had a copy of the Vaimanika Shastra. The only translation of it was in German, because the Germans actually did translations in order to get access to some of that knowledge, which Krishna advised Arjuna not to take the benediction from Mahadanava. He says it will be the destruction of civilization. Don't take the benediction. So he didn't take it, going back to the story. But we see that certain people looked into those Shastras and they wanted that, and their purpose was destruction. Although it was more of the crude type of things, because they didn't have the knowledge how to access these things, where it describes how these Vimanas were powered by mercury. This is the fuel that you used, mixed with certain other things in certain conditions, and this would give them like unlimited energy. And we see also that it was 100 years ago, they were doing the same things as they were doing now. So, for example, back then, they were considering whether to make the transport powered by fossil fuels or by electricity. And they'd actually started making cars and trucks running off of electricity, but they had the same problems. Batteries were heavy and big and charging and all that. 100 years later, once they've polluted the planet for 100 years, they've decided, okay, we better look at this again, rather than sorting it out then. But the thing is, they're so stubborn, like they have to find a way of taxing the living entities. They can't offer something free, whereas there's energy there which could be given for free, but they don't want to because they can't tax the living entities on that. Which just shows you who's in control then, isn't it? Not people who have got the well-wishing of living entities. There's energies there which could be used, which would be more eco-friendly and which wouldn't have to cost anything. And ultimately, going back to the more sustainable way of life, which is mentioned in the Ishopanishad, is that if we live a simple life, then we don't have to have such big ugra karma factories, mines, and things like that. We live a more simple lifestyle. Of course, nobody wants to go around in bullock cart or horse and cart. And while we're in Kali Yuga, we'll use we may criticise them. When I was down in Durban once, actually, I went to a Rath Yatra festival down by the beach, and Jadwaita Maharaj was giving a lecture, well, actually, he was doing questions and answers in a tent. They had many tents set up for different purposes. And someone asked a question. They said, "Oh, you're criticizing these scientists with their technical achievements, but you, Hare Krishnas, you always, you use these things." And he says, "Yes, we do criticize the scientists and we do use them because somebody's got to do them some good." So this is the case, actually. We utilize things in Krishna's service. This is a proper utility, not simply utilizing these things to make the world a worse place. We don't use transport to take animals from the field to the slaughterhouse. We don't chop down trees to make books or newspapers which are just going to get thrown in the bin. No, the only real purpose of these items is to serve Krishna, because that's where they belong. It's Krishna's energies. And if everyone accepts Krishna as his supreme proprietor and trusts that he is a well-wishing friend, then all the troubles can come to an end. But the material world being as it is, there's always going to be two types of people there, so don't expect some kind of utopia any day soon. So we just have to take shelter in Guru and Krishna, and especially if we're out there facing difficulties, then Lord Nrsingadev is very keen to protect the Sankirtan devotees. So, chant Nrsinga Pranams, take shelter in Lord Nrsingadev, and take these wonderful shastras to the living entities and change their lives. So we'll just stop there. Anyone get any question? Sorry, too late. Okay, very quick. Yeah.
Which one you're looking at? You can say who was the supreme person they got, right? So I wasn't knowledgeable enough, so the arguments in that. So how does these Puranas stand out?
Yeah, so there's 18 Puranas, isn't it? And there's 6 in each mode. And 6 in the mode of ignorance, the Lord Shiva is considered to be the supreme. So even if we read in the Bhagavatam, we see that Lord Shiva is considered as supreme by those who are deep in the mode of ignorance. And his compassionate nature, he's known as being Ashutosh, he's easily angered, but he's also easily pleased. So his compassionate nature is that even those living entities in the deepest darkness of ignorance, he's always working to try to elevate them. So they see him as supreme. But if we read the Bhagavatam, we see Krishna book, then there are a number of occasions where Lord Shiva submits himself to Krishna. Like when was it the Banasura fight, where they employed the Shiva Jwar and the Narayana Jwar. So at one point there was a disciple of, was this related to Usha and Aniruddha? If I remember rightly, the Banasura is the father of Usha. That's right. So Aniruddha and Usha, they were having some relationship. Banasura wasn't so keen on it, but Aniruddha is Krishna's grandson. One of those. He had 10 sons and then 10 grandsons. If I remember right, or was it 100? Too many details. So anyway, because of this, then a battle took place where Krishna and Banasura, their armies were fighting together, fighting against each other. And Banasura was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and he called on Shiva, who invoked his ultimate weapon, the Shiva Jwara, which is invoked at the time of destruction of the universe, which means everything becomes so hot and then the planets explode. But then Lord Narayan, he counteracted that with the Narayana Jwara, which made everything very cold. And then Lord Shiva, he was also freezing, and he came and he submitted. So, anyway, if you quote from the Brahma Samhita, where Lord Brahma states that there's Devi Dham, material world, Mahesh Dham, and then Hari Dham, These are considered to be like that. There's other verses it would probably do you good to learn if, like that one, which was mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. Earlier we were reading where Lord Shiva was saying to Parvati that the highest worshipable object is Hari, but higher than that is Tadiya, the devotees of Lord Hari. So he's saying that. What's that verse? Do you remember it? Aradhananam Sarvesham. That's how it starts. Aradhananam Sarvesham. Of all the most worshipable objects, the highest is Vishnu. Shamshaya. Devotees of Vishnu. Lord Shiva, you see him in the Krishna, not chanting only, the Lord Ram, that's right. But sometimes they'll say to you, but yeah, Lord Ram, before he went to Lanka, he went to Shiva to pray for victory. But there he's playing the part of an ideal king. He wasn't playing the part of the Supreme Personality of God when he was doing that. He was playing the part of an ideal king. He didn't have to tolerate anything from Ravana. He could have vanquished him on first sight. But he was showing so many ways where he was showing the ideal king. So that was part of that Leela. Okay, it's Congruent Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, and Tagore Premanand. Go back to the Ki.